The great ship hung in the empty space near the moon. It was called the Starlight Bloom. It was not a human ship. It was a place where many different kinds of aliens came together to talk and share their cultures. This place was called the Galactic Assembly. Most of the species there were very calm and logical. They found beauty in quiet music and peaceful art. They did not understand loud noises or sudden movements. This was why the new species, the humans, were such a puzzle. A smaller human ship, the Odyssey, floated close to the Starlight Bloom. Inside this ship, a man named Jin sat at his desk. He was a lieutenant. His job was to help communicate between humans and the assembly. Right now, he was looking at a long list on his screen. It was a list of names, but they were not human names. They were the names of the aliens who were coming to visit. His door opened and a woman named Mina floated in. She was a cultural specialist. Her job was to explain human things to the aliens. She held a tablet that showed pictures of round orange fruits with faces cut into them. They all said yes, Jin, Mina said. She had a small smile on her face. The Vex, the Tholians, even the Jodes, all of them. They are all coming. Jin leaned back in his chair and laughed softly. They really have no idea, do they? How could they? Mina replied. Our description was very professional. She looked at her tablet and read from it. A participatory cultural immersion focusing on the human relationship with liminal spaces and the controlled confrontation of archetypal fears. The alien psychologists loved that. They think they are coming to a very serious conference. This was the human plan. They had asked the Galactic Assembly if they could host a special event. They called it the Harvest Moon event. They did not call it a party. They did not use the word Halloween. They made it sound like an important lesson about human nature. The aliens, who were very curious about these new emotional creatures, agreed to come. They wanted to understand the humans better. The event would be held at Tranquility 1, a human colony on the moon. The people there had been working hard to change the look of their home. They wanted to make it perfect for the aliens. The real goal was simple. The humans wanted to share something fun and important to them. They wanted to share the thrill of being scared in a safe place. They hoped the aliens would not be too frightened. They hoped the aliens would not get angry and leave. On the Starlight Bloom, the alien delegates were preparing for their trip to the moon. One of them was named Color. He was a Vex. The Vex looked like large, smooth stones that could float. They did not have mouths or eyes. They talked by changing the color of their skin. Right now, Kaler was a calm blue-green color. He was reading the human information again. The concept is fascinating, Keller said to his companion. His color shifted to a curious yellow, to willingly seek out a fear response. It must teach them great mental control. Another delegate was named Exth. Exth was a geode. The geodes were a species made of a living purple crystal. They did not move much. They communicated with soft sounds like gentle chimes. Exth was standing very still, processing the information. The data is unclear, Exth chimed. The humans mention spirits and monsters. These are not logical concepts. Perhaps they are metaphors for psychological challenges. The other aliens had similar thoughts. The Tholians, who had many legs and hard shells, thought it was a test of bravery. The serene, watery Seraphi thought it might be a kind of moving art show. None of them knew about costumes or candy or haunted houses. Back on the Odyssey, Jin and Mina were making their final plans. Is the haunted habitat ready? Jin asked. Mina nodded. Tay sent a message. He says the last of the smoke machines are working. The sounds are all set. He is very proud of his jumping spider robot. Jin smiled. Tay was a young engineer at Tranquility 1. He loved machines and making things. He had been in charge of turning a boring storage room into a place of terror and fun. And the guides? They know what to do? Jin asked. Yes, Chol and Sue are the best. They will stay with the groups. They will explain things when the aliens get scared. They will make sure everyone knows it is just a game. The plan was to have the aliens walk through the haunted habitat in small groups. Each group would have a human guide. The guide would keep them safe and calm them down if the fear became too much. Soon it was time. The alien delegates boarded a small shuttle. It flew them from the Starlight Bloom down to the surface of the moon. It landed gently at Tranquility 1. The door to the shuttle opened. The aliens stepped out into the main concourse of the human colony. What they saw made them stop. The concourse was always a clean, white, and well-lit place. It was a practical place for people to live and work. But not today. Today it was dark. The main lights were off. The only light came from small, flickering orange lamps placed everywhere. The air felt cold and it smelled strange. It smelled of dry leaves and sweet decay. The humans had changed the air system to make it feel like a night in autumn on Earth. There were twisted black trees with orange and black leaves. The humans had made these from metal and cloth. They looked very real. And there were the pumpkins. Hundreds of them. Real pumpkins from the colony's farms. They were carved with scary, smiling, and frowning faces. A small light shone inside each one, making the face glow. Shadows moved on the walls. The music was a low, creepy hum with occasional high-pitched notes. The aliens were confused. This was not what they expected from a cultural immersion. Kalar the Vex floated forward. His color shifted to a gray-orange of confusion. He saw a human guide standing nearby. The guide's name was Chul. He was dressed in simple black clothes. Query, Keller said, his color shifting as he spoke. What is the purpose of this? Decoration? These orange spheres. Our data says they are a food source. Why have they been damaged? Chul smiled warmly. He was ready for this question. It is an art form, Delegate Keller. We call it carving. The faces are meant to represent spirits. Some are meant to be scary. Some are meant to be funny. It is a way to face the dark with a smile. Nearby, the geode Exith was vibrating softly. The strange music and the flickering lights were upsetting his crystal mind. The stimuli are irregular, Exith chimed. They are not peaceful. They trigger my basic warning systems. Is this environment secure? Another guide, a woman named Sue, stood next to him. It is perfectly secure, Delegate Exith, she said in a calm voice. This is all part of the game. The feeling of fear is the goal. The goal is to feel that fear, and then to see that you are safe. It is a way to become stronger. The aliens listened, but they did not fully understand. A game about fear? It was a very strange idea. More aliens came out of the shuttle. They looked around at the transformed concourse. Some were fascinated. Some were nervous. A group of Tholian delegates clicked their claws together, a sign of unease. Jin and Mina watched everything from a control room high above the concourse. They could see all the aliens on their screens. So far, so good, Mina said. No one has run back to the shuttle yet. The real test is the haunted habitat, Jin replied. I hope Tay's spider robot doesn't cause a diplomatic incident. Down below, Chul and Sue gathered their groups of aliens. It was time for the main event. If you will follow me, Chul said to Kellar, Exth, and a few others, we will now experience the heart of the Harvest Moon event. He led them towards a large, sealed door. The door was old and heavy with fake rust on it. A sign above it glowed with red letters, the haunted habitat. Enter if you dare, the aliens looked at the door. They did not know what dare meant in this context, but they followed Chul inside. The door closed behind them with a loud, echoing boom. The story of their journey through the haunted habitat and what they learned there would be told next. For now, they were stepping from the merely strange into the completely unknown. The humans had set the stage. The Harvest Moon event had truly begun. The heavy door sealed behind them and the world changed. The strange but open space of the concourse was gone, replaced by a tight, dark hallway. The air was colder here, and a thin gray mist curled around their feet. The only light was a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling far ahead. It cast long, dancing shadows that seemed to move on their own. Delegate Keller, the Vex, immediately shifted to a dull, worried gray. His smooth, stone-like body floated a little closer to their human guide, Chul. The irregular light patterns were distressing. Query, he hummed, his color muted. Is this a malfunction of the lighting systems? Chul kept his voice low and calm. No, it is working exactly as planned. The uncertainty of the dark is part of the experience. Just stay with me. Behind them, the Geo Delegate X let out a soft, high-pitched ping. The chaotic environment was a direct assault on his crystalline, ordered mind. The mist made it difficult to sense the room's dimensions. My spatial awareness is compromised, he chimed nervously. This is an unsafe configuration. The spider retracted back into the ceiling. The group moved on, through a room where the floor felt wobbly, and another where harmless puffs of air shot at them from the walls. Each scare was designed to startle, not to harm, and each time the guides were there to explain the trick, to show the wires, the projectors, the smiling human behind the mask. By the time they saw a faint light signaling the exit, a change had come over the alien delegates. They were not just less scared. They were curious. They were talking to each other about the mechanics of the scares. KLR was asking Chul detailed questions about the hologram technology. Exith was resonating in a low, thoughtful tone, analyzing the psychological effect of the controlled environment. They had passed through the fear. They had faced the monsters and seen that they were made of rubber and light and friendly people. They had experienced a human tradition that was thousands of years old all in a few minutes. The door at the end of the haunted habitat opened, and they stepped out. They were back in the main concourse with its glowing pumpkins and creepy music, but it did not feel strange or threatening anymore. It felt familiar. It felt like a place of play. They had survived. And more than that, they had begun to understand. The humans did not run from the dark. They did not hide from the things that frightened them. They built a house for their fears, and they invited their friends inside to play a game. It was the most illogical and most courageous thing the aliens had ever seen. The door to the haunted habitat closed behind the last group of aliens. The sounds of their nervous chatter and startled cries were gone, replaced by the low, steady hum of the colony's life support. In the control room, Tay leaned back in his chair and let out a long, slow breath. His screens showed empty, dark rooms and still corridors. The haunted house was over. He switched on his comm link. The last group is out. All systems are off. The event is complete. Down below, the main concourse of Tranquility 1 was filled with a new kind of energy. The alien delegates were no longer standing in quiet, confused groups. They were moving around, talking excitedly to each other and to their human guides. The air, which had been thick with tension before, now felt light and buzzing. Jin and Mina floated down from the control room to join the crowd. They moved through the delegates, listening. A Tholian was clicking its claws rapidly, describing the jumping spider to a serene, watery Seraphi. The descent was so sudden. The precision of the mechanics was impressive once I understood it was not a predator. The Seraphi bubbled in response. The auditory deception in the first chamber was most effective. The disembodied cries triggered a deep-seated flight response. To then reveal it as artifice, it was a masterful manipulation of perception. Jin smiled at Mina. I think they liked it. Liked is not the right word, Mina corrected, her eyes shining. They were impacted by it. They're trying to process it. They found the group that had been led by Chul and Sue. Delegate Kalar, the Vex, was floating near a large, grinning jack-o'-lantern. His color was a shifting, thoughtful pattern of blue and green. Lieutenant Jin, Keller said, his voice a hum of colors. The entity in the medical bay. The one with the sutures. It was a human female named Ji-Hyun, correct? That's right, Jin said. She was the most frightening part of the experience, Keller admitted, flashing a brief red at the memory. Because she was so real. The hologram was a simple trick. But she was a person pretending to be a monster. The contradiction is fascinating. Why would a peaceful being choose to become a thing of fear? Nearby, the GO delegate, Exeth, was standing perfectly still. His crystalline form was glowing with a soft, steady light. Sue was standing beside him. Your analysis, Delegate Exeth? Sue asked gently. The fear was a real physiological response, Exeth chimed, his tone measured. My internal systems registered a heightened state of alert. But the context was false. My mind knew there was no true threat, yet my body reacted. You have created a tool to separate instinct from intellect. You practice courage. Chol walked over, leading a small group of other aliens. They all want to know how it was done, he said to Jin, laughing. They're not scared anymore. They're engineers and scientists again. And it was true. The questions came fast. How was the cold air produced in the second corridor? Was the floor in the second-to-last room on a hydraulic system? The synthetic scent of decay. What is its chemical composition? The humans did their best to answer. They explained the smoke machines, the moving platforms, the special effects. They showed a few aliens the control room from a distance, where Tay was now happily explaining his spider robot's pulley system to anyone who would listen. The mood had completely transformed. The initial fear and confusion had melted away, replaced by a deep and growing admiration. The aliens began to see the haunted habitat not as a series of random frights, but as a complex, carefully designed piece of art. A psychological workshop. A tall, avian-like Seraphi, the head of the delegation, approached Jin and Mina. Her voice was like the chiming of delicate bells. Human Jin, human Mina, she began. We came here today expecting a lecture, perhaps a demonstration of a somber Earth ritual. We did not expect this. She gestured with a graceful wing at the entire concourse, the pumpkins, the costumes. We must apologize, she continued. We initially thought this was a primitive superstition. We were wrong. What you have shared with us is a profound technology, not a technology of machines, but a technology of the mind. Jin bowed his head slightly. Thank you. We are glad you are not offended. Offended? The Seraphi chimed, a sound of surprise. We are enlightened. Your species does not hide from the dark. You do not suppress your fears. You build a stage for them. You give them a name and a face, and in doing so you take away their power. This explains so much about humanity. She looked out at the other delegates who were now curiously examining the prop trees and fake cobwebs, their earlier fear gone. It explains your resilience, your ability to adapt to new worlds to face the unknown of space. You have practiced. You have practiced facing monsters in the dark, and so when you meet a real challenge, you are not paralyzed. You are prepared. Mina felt a lump in her throat. This was more than they had ever hoped for. They had wanted to share a fun holiday. The aliens had found a philosophy of life. The Seraphi delegate turned back to them, her large liquid eyes serious. The Galactic Assembly is old. Our cultures are deep and rich, but I believe we have something to learn from you. Something very important. As she spoke, the colony's intercom system chimed. A friendly recorded voice echoed through the concourse. The Harvest Moon event social gathering will now begin in the main hall. Please follow the lighted path for refreshments and conversation. The humans began to guide the delegates towards a large open hall. The lights here were warm and yellow. The creepy music was replaced by soft, playful tunes. The scary decorations were gone, replaced by tables filled with strange and wonderful food. The Harvest Moon event was not over. The second act was about to begin. The lesson on fear was complete. Now it was time for the lesson on fun. The aliens, their minds buzzing with new ideas, followed their hosts, ready to see what other surprises the humans had in store. The main hall of Tranquility 1 was a world away from the dark and scary haunted habitat. Here the lights were warm and bright. The air smelled of sweet spices and baked goods instead of cold mist and decay. A long table was piled high with food and drinks in bright colors. There were orange cakes, black cookies, and a bubbling red drink in a large bowl with dry ice fog drifting over the edges. The alien delegates moved into the room slowly. They were still thinking about the haunted house. Their minds were full of the scary things they had seen and felt. The cheerful brightness of the hall was a shock to their systems. Jin and Mina stood near the entrance, watching them. They looked like they just woke up from a strange dream, Jin said quietly. Mina nodded. Now we show them the other side of the coin. The party after the scare. At one end of the hall, a small group of human children from the colony waited nervously. They were dressed in their costumes. There was a small astronaut, a dinosaur, a princess in a shiny dress, and a boy wearing a very homemade-looking alien costume with 3 eyes on his head. Their parents stood behind them, giving them encouraging smiles. Cultural specialist Mina stepped forward and clapped her hands gently. The room grew quiet. All the alien eyes turned to look at her. Honored delegates, Mina began, her voice clear and warm. You have bravely faced the monsters in the dark. Now we would like to share the history of this night and its happier traditions. She told them a story. She spoke of ancient Earth, long before spaceships and moon colonies. She described a time when people believed that on one special night, the wall between the world of the living and the world of the dead grew thin. Spirits could walk the earth. The people were afraid, of course, Mina explained. But they found clever ways to protect themselves. They carved faces into turnips and later pumpkins, and put a light inside to scare the spirits away. They wore masks and costumes made of animal skins. This was so the wandering spirits would mistake them for one of their own, or be frightened by their scary faces, and leave them alone. Color, the Vex floated closer. His color, a fascinated swirl of blue and yellow, a ritual of communal protection, based on a shared belief. Yes, Mina said. And it involved the whole community. People would leave offerings of food outside their homes to appease the spirits. This custom changed over time. It became a game for children. She gestured to the waiting children. This is the game. It is called Trick or Treat. The children dress in costumes. They go from door to door. When a door opens, they say trick or treat. This means, Give me a treat like a sweet or a small gift, or I will play a trick on you. It is all in good fun. The tricks are small and harmless. The aliens listen, trying to understand this new puzzle. A ritual where the young impersonate the very things the ritual was meant to ward off. It was circular logic. It was brilliant. Now, Mina said to the delegates, for a moment, you will be the homes. You will be the ones who offer the treat. She gave a signal. The group of children led by the little astronaut took a deep breath and walked forward. They approached the tall avian seraphy delegate first. The children looked up at the beautiful alien creature. They held out small bags. In small, shy voices, they chimed together, trick or treat. The seraphy looked down at them. She then looked at Mina, who nodded encouragingly. The seraphy used her delicate wing to pick up a small wrapped nutrient bar from a basket that a human helper offered. She placed one bar into each of the children's bags. The children's faces lit up with real joy. Thank you. They chirped and moved on to the next delegate. The effect was magical. The serious, often frightening aliens were completely disarmed by the small costumed humans. The Tholian delegates clicked softly and carefully placed bars into the bags of the dinosaur and the princess. Collar the Vex glowed a soft, warm, pinkish color as the three-eyed alien approached him. You are a very convincing life form, Keller hummed to the boy, who giggled. Even Exeth, the Geode, who usually stood perfectly still, allowed a small child to place her own nutrient bar into the bag she held open near his crystalline base. The hall filled with a new sound. It was the sound of laughter and happy chatter. The tension from the haunted house was completely gone, washed away by this simple, sweet ritual. After the children had visited every delegate and run back to their parents to show off their full bags, the socializing began in earnest. The humans encouraged the aliens to try the special foods. They explained everything. This is apple cider, a drink made from fruit, Joel said, offering a small cup to a Tholian. This is caramel corn, a sweet and salty snack, Sue said, showing a geode how to examine it. The delegates were cautious at first, but their curiosity won. The Tholians found they enjoyed the crunchy texture of the caramel corn. The Vex analyzed the sugar content of the cider with great interest. The hall became a lively party. Jin found Kalar floating near the punch bowl, his color a steady, thoughtful blue. An incredible transformation, Lieutenant Jin, Kalar hummed. First you guide us through a manufactured nightmare. Our bodies scream with primal fear. Then you bring us here. You give us sweet food. You show us your young, who impersonate the monsters we just faced. You turn our fear into community, into joy. He shifted to a warmer yellow. You ritualize the entire emotional cycle. You do not just confront fear. You conquer it, and then you celebrate the victory with sugar and laughter. This is a revolutionary approach to mental health, Exth chimed in agreement from nearby. My analysis concurs. The event is a holistic psychological exercise. It validates the fear response, provides a safe container for it, and then releases the tension through social bonding and reward. It is far more sophisticated than our methods of meditation and avoidance. The head Seraphi delegate approached Jin and Mina. Her delicate features were arranged in a look of deep respect. Your Halloween is a masterpiece of culture, she said, her voice like soft wind chimes. We came to observe a custom. We leave having witnessed a key to your species' character. You are not unafraid. You are brave. And you have taught yourselves bravery through play. This is a lesson the Galactic Assembly would do well to learn. As she spoke, the humans started to bring out more things. They brought out simple masks and hats. They invited the aliens to try them on. At first, the delegates were hesitant, but then a young Tholian, encouraged by the children, put on a funny nose and glasses. Another tentatively held a mask in front of its hard shell. Soon the hall was filled with aliens wearing silly human disguises. The Vex floated with paper hats on their smooth bodies. The geodes had strings of colorful beads draped near their peaks. They were playing. They were laughing. The mighty, logical delegates of the Galactic Assembly were playing dress-up. The Harvest Moon event was no longer just a human party. It had become a shared experience, a bridge between worlds. The humans had not just shared their holiday, they had shared their heart. And the galaxy for the first time was starting to understand it. The party in the main hall lasted for a long time. The sounds of talking and laughter filled the air. The strange sight of serious aliens wearing funny hats and masks was something no human would ever forget. But all good things must end. One by one, the alien delegates started to say their goodbyes. They were tired, but their minds were alive with new thoughts. They boarded their shuttle and flew back to the great ship, the Starlight Bloom. The silence on their return trip was very different from the silence on their way to the moon. Before, it was the silence of not knowing what would happen. Now it was the silence of deep thought. The next morning on the human ship Odyssey, Jin was at his desk again. He was drinking coffee and looking over reports. He expected a message from the assembly. He expected a formal thank you note, maybe a few questions. He was not prepared for what arrived. His screen lit up with an urgent communication. It was from the office of the head Seraphi delegate herself. Jin opened it, his heart beating a little faster. The message was not just a note. It was a formal proposal. It was a request for a cultural exchange program, focused entirely on the principles of the Harvest Moon event. But that was not the surprising part. The surprising part was the attachment. It was a request from the Vex homeworld. Jin read it twice to make sure he understood. He then called Mina to his office. "Mina, you have to see this," he said, his voice full of disbelief. Mina read the message over his shoulder. Her eyes grew wide. "They want to what?" The message was from Delegate Kaler's Governing Council. They were officially requesting human assistance. They wanted to create their own version of Halloween on their planet. They asked if human experts could come to their world to help them design a haunted habitat and explain the customs of trick or treat. They want to build a haunted house? Mina said, laughing in amazement. For themselves? It seems that way, Jin said, a slow smile spreading across his face. Look at their reasoning. Color had written a long report about the event. He called it the most effective communal bonding and courage-building exercise he had ever witnessed. He said the Vex, who were often too logical and isolated, could learn a great deal from facing imagined fears together. He believed it would make their society stronger. A few hours later, another message arrived. This one was from the Tholians. They were also interested. They saw the event as a superior form of training for their young warriors to learn control over their instinctual fear responses. Even the Geodes, through Exith, sent a detailed analysis. They concluded that the controlled fear environment could be useful for testing the structural integrity of their crystalline forms under stress, in a safe setting. The humans had not just shared a holiday. They had started a new trend in the galaxy. A week later, Jin and Mina were back on the bridge of the Odyssey, looking out at the stars. The Harvest Moon event was over, but its effects were just beginning. It worked better than we ever dreamed, Mina said softly. We wanted to share something fun. They found something necessary, Jin nodded. They saw that we are not fearless. They saw that we are brave, and they want to learn how to be brave like that too. They want to learn how to play in the dark. He thought about the reports. The Vex wanted to build a haunted house. The Tholians wanted to use it for training. It was funny, but it was also deeply meaningful. Humanity had given the galaxy a gift. It was a gift of rubber masks and pumpkin lights, of fake spiderwebs and sugary candy. But it was also a gift of courage. The galaxy was a big and often scary place. The aliens had always met that fear with silence, with logic, with hiding. Now they had seen a different way. They had seen a species that met fear with a smile and a joke. A species that dressed its children as monsters and sent them out to ask for candy. It was a strange way to be brave. But it was the human way. A new message flashed on Jin's screen. It was a request for a video meeting with the Vex Council to discuss the details of their haunted house. They had questions about air pressure for fog machines and the optimal level of lighting for a startle effect. Jin looked at Mina and grinned. Well, he said, it looks like we have a new job. We are now Galactic Halloween consultants, Mina laughed. The sound was bright and happy in the quiet hum of the ship. The Odyssey turned slowly, pointing its nose towards a new destination. It was not just a ship anymore. It was a carrier of a new idea. An idea that was simple but powerful. An idea that started with a carved pumpkin and a shared scare, and ended with a galaxy full of beings learning for the first time how to laugh at the shadows on the wall. The Harvest Moon event was over. But the harvest had just begun.